Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 635th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I am the Clown Prince of Podcast Trust now, and I'm joined by
Shut the fuck up, Ricky. That's me, Kirk and Patzer.
For once, Taylor Field.
a mountain. A what? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to review Joker Folie, Deux. Now, obviously, very anticipated movie because the first movie made $1 billion and it was a very controversial movie. And then even doing the sequel is controversial. A lot of people saying you don't need a sequel yet. We'll probably talk about news, how it's going to do or not do box office wise, because tracking has been going down for it. So I think some of the word of mouth has been spreading, but doesn't necessarily mean that we agree. As usual, there's lots of stuff going on the feed. We usually drop about 4 to 5 episodes if you're first time listening to GeekVerse. Every week there's about 4 episodes on the feed. So subscribe. It's a late one for us here, so I'm just going to say go down the links for everything you need to know is down below. Patreon, podcast, video, all that good jazz. And then most importantly, November 2nd, our 24-hour stream for Extra Life. It's a charity. We're doing it for our 8th year. We're trying to raise $2,500 towards the BC Children's Hospital. If you're interested and want to help out, all these proceeds go towards kids and families in need. And the donations are tax deductible. And if not, please just come that day. We're going to start announcing events soon. But lots of fun events, things coming back that people love, some new things, always rotating, like old faces stopping by. So it's a good time. If you've never seen us do Extra Life, come check it out, because there's some downtime of us gaming and just talking in the chat, which is always fun, but we try to make an event and do a multitude of things, so look out for that, and we very much appreciate the support coming up on that. Taylor Field, give me your non-spoiler thoughts. Obviously, people want to know the thoughts on your first movie. We dropped the retrospective last week, so you don't need to do that. That's on the feed. What is your non-spoiler thoughts of this film?
Non-spoilers thoughts. So yeah, obviously everyone knows this is a musical. Going in, I think that they did a interesting.
To stop you, I don't know if everyone does know that, because as we were watching the movie, someone, as the song 2 started, went, "Is this a fucking musical?" So just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh boy. I think that the way that they handled certain songs in this narrative actually it worked for me quite well. I'd say that it didn't feel like, in most cases, the musical, the song kicks in and then it feels like all like the real world kind of things going on in the real world just kind of stop and cease doing what they're doing in lieu of just the song and the characters singing and whatnot. But in this, I like how it felt like the characters were singing and everyone around them would be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? Like, it still felt like it felt like it was insane. And it worked for the story, and I can appreciate that. I felt like it didn't do a lot at the start, but then we started to get maybe too many as it progressed, which is a bit of a con for me. But I still felt like there were things with Arthur Fleck that I enjoyed how they tied in, not just because there's certain moments that I won't say this, I won't put it this way because that's a spoiler, but there's certain moments where they use the musicals in the main narrative, and then there's certain ways that they use the musicals in another way that showed how, like, him kind of delving deeper into his character, and I like that a lot, because every time you get one of these weird transitional musical numbers, like, okay, now we're gonna get like another amped up version of like our Arthur Fleck character, and I like that. It was super exciting, and it was great to see what happens next, because he just keeps going crazier and crazier, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, it just felt like there was a lot, and it happening more frequently as we were going along. But that being said, I feel that the first one still stands up, because this one, as we get to the third act, kind of unravels and maybe backtracks a little bit of our character and what they've done in that first one. And I feel like it's unfortunate. And there's just a lot of time, like, as much as I like certain things and the time spent in certain environments in this episode, I do think it's just a shame that we didn't get, I don't know, a little bit more.
This episode, I didn't get
episode.
Fuck. I didn't get the Joker TV show.
Middle
Man,
Earth,
huge.
He was watching his TV movie.
Fucking Nori.
His TV movie, yeah. I think that we should have maybe got a different kind of narrative with our character, or at least like maybe push things along a little bit further, because it's a long movie, and I feel like it just felt like it really felt slow, and I hate to say that. So I know how I feel about like where I would rank this or what I would give this movie for a ranking or a rating. But yeah, I'm
Just
excited
drop
to
it.
talk
Just drop
about.
it right
Just drop
now.
it now. I'm excited to talk spoilers with you guys and kind of
10.
like break it apart, because there's definitely a few moments that I appreciate where that cringiness where you're laughing, because man, Arthur Fleck is he like Joaquin Phoenix plays a damn good fucking Joker. And on that note, Lady Gaga is fucking fantastic in this movie. I think she absolutely nailed it. I loved her character. I think it was great, and just her dynamic with Arthur Fleck was. I thought their chemistry was fantastic. Yeah, it's just only good things to say about them for sure. So yeah.
Mr. Patzer.
Mr. Me. Yeah, this is an interesting one because I very much was anticipated for it going into it. I didn't really know about like the review trend until like I think today. Honestly, I was talking to a coworker about it, and he's like, "It's not gonna be good." Like seeing reviews. And then
40%.
I'm always weird when someone says that because it's just like, okay, well, like you can also see it yourself and like judge it with your own
Nope.
opinion. But I digress. So like I want to say that deterred my anticipation, but it's just like, okay, this is gonna be interesting. I knew it was a musical going into it, so obviously a lot of people have issues with musicals, and maybe if people don't know it's a musical going into it, that could definitely kill a lot of the excitement. But like all that being said, I had a good time with this movie. I think that this is a good story. It's I think quite messy at various stages, but I think the stuff that they do well, they do really well. And like I do really like it as a project on its own. And this is gonna be weird to say, but I feel like maybe I would have preferred a different sequel to the first Joker, and we'll get into that when we get into that. But yeah, like you can't really have this movie without what happens in the first movie because it's directly like and like following up with the events of what happened there. But it just still felt like disjoint or like disconnected a little bit maybe from the first. And again, like I'm trying to not say too much here, so we will detail that when we get in the spoiler section. But yeah, no, I think it still looks really good. Lady Gaga was fantastic. I've seen half of Stars Born, fell asleep, so I haven't really seen her act that much other than like the little sequences of that movie that I've seen. So I'll definitely have to jump in because like what's a quick fire of some of her movies? I know the
House of Gucci.
House of Gucci. I
Stars
heard she's the
Born.
standout in that. Stars Born. I heard she's the standout
American
in that.
Horror
So
Story.
and I heard she's a standout in the sequences that she's in that show. So that's exciting to see, and I hope she starts doing well. I hope she starts doing. I hope she continues to do these big films and big projects because she is a very talented lady. And yeah, just it's funny like because this is a musical. Having her like sing in this next to like Joaquin, I'm like, God damn, she's just a fantastic singer, and it really just makes Joaquin look like not that great of a singer.
Hey,
You know?
he played Johnny Cash. Come on.
I mean, yeah, but like it's also Arthur Fleck maybe versus like okay, we have Harley Quinn, but it's still Lady Gaga. Like she's still got Lady Gaga's voice, and like she is a very good singer. So, yeah, I had a good time with this one. It I would say across the board, it very much isn't as like dour as the first, and like I don't feel like sick to my stomach like throughout this whole film like I do at various stages of the Joker. Now if you listen to the retro that we did for Joker 1, I felt less so that way on my rewatch of it, but it's also because maybe I knew what was coming in a certain extent. But it's still just not a feel good movie, and this isn't really that, but it's still more uplifting overall than maybe uplifting's a weird way to phrase it. It's
I think
more
so.
yeah, it's more heightened maybe than what the first one is, and because of the musical aspect, there's like reasons for that which make a lot of sense. But yeah, I still think there's a lot of good stuff in here. Joaquin, I think he's still great, but just not like as mind blowing as he was in that first movie. And it's tough to say that when it's your first time experiencing the actor portrayal that role. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on like my overall like what I would I'm not as solid on like what Taylor would give right now, but I still had a good time, and I can definitely see why a lot of people would might have issues with this. Cuz I like with what Taylor was saying, like the beginning, I felt like we were coming into the dock and we're looking for a dock to board at, but we just can't quite decide where we're going, and we're kind of just stuck in the middle, and we're kind of just spinning around where to go, if that analogy makes sense at all.
Arthur's just on the ship, fucking laughing away.
Yeah, but like once we got going, like the meat and potatoes of this story, I did actually really enjoy. So yeah, it's an interesting one for sure, and maybe just not as clean as a sequel as maybe I would have wanted, but it's not a clean character by any means. So in a weird sense, it fits, and I liked a lot of the supporting characters that were in here, and some funny moments that were maybe not so intentional. But yeah, I think I'm happy with that overall right now. And music was fantastic. I love the soundtrack of this movie. A lot of just songs I knew of, but again, like having them come through Lady Gaga's mouth, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is like, fuck, this is beautiful sounding, and so some really great visuals. So yeah, overall definitely positive for me. Thumbs up.
Yeah, this is gonna be a interesting one for me because I'm somebody that even on that first review we did, or I did with Dylan and Briggs, I think they were both in the camp of you leave it as one and done. And I know a bunch of people that you'll leave it as a one and done, and I was always in the camp like you got to do a sequel, like because the money. But like I think there's lots of potential here. And even when we got those trailers, I was like, okay, they're doing a lot of the ideas that I think would be the great, like the route to go. And I think they touch on that a little bit, but it is that risk of Joker might just be that lightning striking in a perfect situation. Because yeah, I was very surprised by this movie, and oh, I don't know what the best way to describe it is. I think for pros is I would much rather still watch this. This is nowhere a fail. So there's my spoiler for a mini of the ranking there. It's nowhere a fail because cinematography, beautiful looking film, multiple shots throughout this just look great. Acting by both people are fantastic. At the same time, I think Kirkland's right where Joaquin's like he's great in this, but he's maybe not got as good of a scene. And I think there's something in the third act he could have had, but they kind of, whether it was his choice or someone else's choice, kind of ruined that. And then I think Gaga is good in this, but I wanted more of her, and I don't think when we come to Golden Geeks, there's like a scene I can throw at you to be like, oh, that's why she should get nominated. I think she was just consistently good, but I thought Harley Quinn would be a bigger aspect of this movie. But I could never, because I would much rather watch this over. I'm sorry if you like any of these films, but like Blue Beetle or Shazam 2 or Black Adam or the Marvels, or I'm trying to think of another like mid-tier Marvel movie, or like a Black Widow. Like there's so many just comic book movies that just exist to fuel the machine and make money. And of course, like no duh, they all got paid like 50 million, 25, like they did this sequel for the money, right? But that's Hollywood, that's what you do. So for me, there's way more interesting things in this than a lot of other comic book movies. So I'll take this any day over a lot of like, let's just pump this out and it's like a generic origin story with a few things changed, right? But at the same time, now seeing this, I don't think this movie should have happened, and I can go back to 2019 Travis and say, you know what? I think you were wrong. I think this movie has some good ideas. I think there's some good scenes in there. I already talked about the other stuff. I think it is a very messy movie when it comes down to the script. I think the script is the biggest issue here. They're throwing out a lot of themes, and they're throwing out themes that I can still detach it, and I will wait a little bit, but I think there's stuff they throw out here that linger or teeter or just full on do hurt the first film, and it makes it feel like, oh, like you're kind of going back on a lot of stuff. And now when I watch again, I'll space them out, but I don't know, I will watch this again in the near future because Emily didn't get to see it. But before, the plan was, oh, I'll see it, and then the following weekend we'll go see this. I could not sit in the theater again for this. This was way too slow for me, and I'm someone that likes slow stuff. A lot of this was a slog, and I think it was just the pacing. I think even though Joker 1 is a slower movie, that pacing I think is very well done between real life stuff, the Murray stuff, the crime stuff. I think it has a good flow. This is just kind of all over the place. The music numbers just sometimes come out of nowhere. That's the other thing too, where I'm not a musical guy. I could have cut at least 3 songs in here. There was a point where a character says like, "Oh, stop singing, just talk." That was me about halfway through this movie. This was a musical where I can count on the hand musicals I love that aren't Disney. Throw Disney out because that's a different thing, right? Like a La La Land, even like Grease and was it Rocky Horror Picture Show? Like there's aspects of that I like, but it's the songs. I'm not saying the music was bad, but I agree with Taylor that I like some of the function of how they use the musical stuff, but it just maybe was too much. And there were a few times where it would just randomly just come in. They're like, well, let's just plop it right here. Sometimes it felt very natural, and sometimes it just felt, well, we haven't had a musical number in a while. So I think this movie would probably be better if you took all that out, even though the art design and some of that stuff is really well done. So yeah, I think the other thing is too that I was with the movie primarily for I'd say the first act and a half, so maybe just the entire first half. I think it starts to go off the rails a little bit, and then I think the third act is a big mess. I think the third act, they did not know how to end this, and I think there is about 5 things where it's like a oof, oof, and I could just feel that score in my head like drop and like like I was like, oh, it's probably here. Oh, it's probably here, and then it's like boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh man, but there's still some good like unintentional dark humor. I laughed, so I will watch this again in the future, I think, but it won't be, like I said, not counting the rewatch with Emily, it won't be a long time. Where Joker 1, I have the need, not the need, but I could easily plug that in. Like, oh, I want to watch that, but I'm curious how this one's gonna age, but I think it's gonna age poorer, and I just think there's just a lot of ideas here that aren't flushed out, and I just don't know what necessarily happened between 1 and 2, and that's where it's like, okay, is 1 just a lucky thing, right? Or maybe they did say everything they needed. I disagree because I think they touched on some things in here that I would have wanted to see expanded on, but they didn't go that route. That's fine. So I'm going to judge on the movie they gave me, and the movie they gave me, I think, is a well-made, messy painting. That's the best way I'd say it. It's like you get the best artist in the world, and it's like, paint me a mess. It's like, okay, I'm going to paint you a mess. And not saying that Todd Phillips is the best artist in the world, but I just mean there's some visual and film stuff that is made quite well. So, anything else non-spoilers? Okay, so we're gonna get into it. So if you've not seen Joker Folie Deux, we will be back after this ad break with spoilers. So you've been warned. And we're back. So where do we want to start with this one?
It's just the idea maybe of it being something that I agree with the statement. I think there is a lot of stuff in here that actually hurt the the original film. It's funny when we were doing the retro and just talking about like Zazie Beetz' character and just the unknown of really what happens with that, and then here we are. It's like, oh no, she's just fine, and that kind of just crossed that off. And a lot of that mystery and intrigue now of me watching that first film, it's not really a talking point anymore, right? It's not like, oh, what do you think happened here? And like you can kind of discuss that with people. Well, we just know, like he just left, and there's nothing more to it. Even just the whole like insanity factor that he had, like it just seemed like he was a very different Joker at the start of this film, or Arthur Fleck, I guess you could make the statement there, but you could maybe make the argument that it's because he is just medicated up now, and he isn't just laughing at like uncomfortable moments anymore. It's just at the start of the film, it just felt like a very different Arthur Fleck, and I felt that way until, like, honestly, until he kind of starts getting more into like the Joker vibe again, and then he starts getting like the crazy laughs back, and again, like you can make the argument it's because he's not taking his pills anymore, like the conversation with Harley. But yeah, I just was that, like, right out the gates, that was kind of noticeable to me, and that's when I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel like it does pick up right after the events of Joker, even though he's in prison for shooting Murray, and it's just, it is a sequel, but it just feels like it is its own thing in a certain sense. And I think because I was thinking that, I kind of just put myself in that mindset, and maybe it allowed me to enjoy it more because I wasn't really holding on to that. But, you know, when we get to like the ending and the third act and his decision for what he does, I really didn't like that like at all. So I kind
No.
of just was sour, especially with the third act of the first film and how he he goes through the whole evolution of becoming the Joker. He just kind of throws that in the trash by the end of this movie, and I was left really disappointed by the third act of this film, even though overall I still enjoyed it. But yeah, it's unfortunate whenever you have a sequel that does bring down the quality of that first film.
Yeah, it's like a de-evolution of the character because I like the
Yeah.
beginning of I can buy that he's drugged up. Maybe they got him a new meds. That's fine. You can see Arthur's there, but he's like even when they do that first interview with him because he's on trial obviously, and it's that debate of okay, is he sane? Is he not? His lawyer's trying to argue for split personality, and when they interview him the first time, he's like very quiet and he doesn't really have any personality. And he's just kind of like a lobotomized version of himself. And I was
Mm-hmm.
completely fine with that. And it's like Harley doing the whole, gunshot to the head, like kind of wakes him up a little. And then he decides to stop taking his pills. And we go down the rabbit hole. But like, this is where I'll have to think more about. I think there's two things they do here with the whole Joker thing. But the third act, there's lots to talk about. But when he becomes the lawyer. And I like the consistency of when he's off his pills, he kisses his lawyer multiple times. It's like when he was on the talk show and he kissed like that lady doctor. It's like he gets more inappropriate. But that's where for me, I guess I don't think a lot of this tracks because the whole point of a lot like Harley Quinn, Gaga's trying to get the Joker out in a way, right? Like saying you don't need her yet. They're who are they here to see yet? And finally he snaps. He's like, "That's it. This is bullshit. I need to represent myself." And he does that. He puts on this whole show trying to get to himself. And I just don't think they earned the well. You know what? I'm actually not Joker. I'm Arthur Fleck, and I made some mistakes, and I just want a second chance. I don't think that was earned at all. I don't think that. I think that hurt the first one for me because I thought the whole point of the first one was to show how could this situation, a real world situation, create the Joker, right? It's not chemicals. It's not whatever Heath Ledger is, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Whatever Heath Ledger is, it's okay. What could we put? What type of society could we put a character in there, right? And for him to say, "Oh, I'm not the Joker. I'm just Arthur Fleck," I think I get what they're trying to do. But it is Arthur Fleck is a at times sympathetic character, but to me that was the point of the first one is that character eventually goes to a certain place that you can't follow. And I don't think they hit upon enough that if he was really like I really want my meds. I really want like he didn't want to be the Joker at the beginning of this film, but it just felt like he was being drugged by because he's in prison, not because like hey, that I went down that route and I can't go back there. He seems like he's wanting to get out and he's liking having Lee around and everything. So I think for me that really hurt that he kind of became Arthur again, and I just felt like it's too late for that. I think that ship has sailed, and I don't think it was earned in the movie. Especially because, like I said, there's just multiple times where it feels like Arthur's wanting to become Joker again. So I think it was whatever they were trying to do there was not fully well executed, and like I said, hurts the first one because now it's like I'm fine if he were to do the whole because the debate is if he's split personality or not. I would have been fine if he would have said, "Hey, you know what? It wasn't the system. It wasn't the pills. I'm not sick. Like, I'm just a fucking murderer and a bad person. I'm using this all as an excuse." But it was the reverse of like, well, I might be a little sick and I might be this, but I was still like he said, like I'm in a bad place in my life, but I'm not the Joker. I'm still Arthur Fleck. So yeah, I really didn't like that. And there's other things in the third act I did not like, but that was probably the biggest thing in this film I did not enjoy. And then even stuff that they do with it after, I don't think they paid it off well. But yeah, Taylor, what are your thoughts?
No, I'm pretty much on the same boat as you. I don't think that they earned that kind of transition for our character at the end, especially because yeah, this is the first movie. It sets up everything so well, and I feel like Arthur Fleck as a Joker becoming more and more insane, and yeah, getting off of his meds, and like I said before, using the musical numbers each time he breaks off into this different theme with Harley. and it's just some like TV show sitcom like musical number, which is great. I love those transitions. And afterwards, when that would conclude, you see Arthur Fleck and he starts to smile, and then he fires his lawyer, or he just like does some other crazy shit, and it just shows him kind of like finding himself. And I really like that. But just for the last 15 minutes for him just to like, no, I'm not that, like I'm not Joker, and then Harley Quinn walks out, and then a bomb goes off and Batman shows up. I'm just kidding. um it's just
Come with me.
it's
Arkham.
really it's really unfortunate. I think that it does so much
Look to the
damage
west.
to our does so much damage to our character in this movie, and retroactively in the first movie too. So it's such a shame. I think it's a really big shame. But I again, I see like, okay, well, this is a character. His actions were meant to inspire the creation of the real Joker, I guess, which we'll talk about later. But
Fuck off with
Christ,
that
I
stuff.
fucking hate that so much,
I-
man. I got
so-
back. Shay's like, "How's the movie?" I'm like, "It made me so mad at the end because that fucking thing."
So-
oh my god.
I've
Go
talked
there.
about
Let's
this
go there
with
right now.
Madison and Taylor in the car. Todd Phillips had said that about the first one, right? When they, of course, because the talk was, if you don't recall, that's when Pattinson was getting cast, and it was like the idea of, could he be that? And I do wish there was actually, I don't, because we got Barry Keoghan, and I'm very excited to see what Barry's going to do. So I take that back. But back then, I was like, yeah, put them together. Joaquin and Pattinson, like, what a combo now, right? But I'm happy where we're going with Barry. He had talked about how, well, this could be the Joker. Maybe this inspires the real Joker. I fucking hate that. I think it was just like better as like a, and I guess that's a problem with the sequel. This sounds mean, but I gave him and Scott Silver too much credit because I did not think he would just go for something as obvious of like, hey, I floated the idea of this might not be the real Joker, might inspire the Joker, but to really nail it in people's heads, I'm gonna literally fucking do it. I'm gonna show you that, well, this isn't the Joker, this guy's gonna kill him, and then he's gonna, give us the origin of Heath Ledger's Joker as he cuts his mouth open, which I don't think that's what they're doing, but I was like, oh man, not to invoke Heath Ledger's Joker in that moment was a little bold. Again, I don't think they purposely did that, but you have to, like, there's a line there of they both cut their cheeks open to make a permanent smile, right? And I get what they're doing with even talking about the death, which I think we all knew was going to happen, or we thought was a very likely possibility. I think with the walking speech at the end, with Harley, with this guy, with the guys that kidnap him from the bombing, another theme that I think he's trying to do is like fans feeling like they own something, or whether it's just in general in politics, like owning something, because this idea that he doesn't want to be Joker anymore, but these guys kidnap him, like, no, you're still going to be Joker, you're Joker. So I think that was his way of trying to say something about fan toxicity, and along those lines, like I said, even can be real world stuff, but I think it's introduced so late it doesn't work. It's kind of like in the first one where I don't have this problem, but all of a sudden when Arthur makes a joke and Robert De Niro's like, that's not funny, Arthur, you can't say that, and Todd Phillips is trying to like comment on like comedy nowadays, but it's like, well, he didn't really set that up. Like, Arthur's problem was that like people don't find him funny. It was like he's a lot of issues. So I feel like this was the same thing of, that's something interesting to tackle, of fans feeling like they own an IP, a character, Joker, right? We talk about with Star Wars, like, okay, I own Joker. Harley owns Joker, and once it's gone, we're mad, right? It's almost like the sequel of like, hey, like, you should make more. We want more Joker. Well, here it is, but I think the problem is like, I don't like that ending at all of like, oh, this inspires another Joker. It really had like, that's the best, because I thought we had this rumored for ages, and I'm not sure if they cut it, and I wasn't going to bring it up. There were rumors a long time ago that Bruce Wayne was supposed to be in that asylum with them, and I thought that's what this was going to be. And I would have been fine with it if like some people would have been mad and it's like a Batman killing thing, but I was like, if they reveal this guy as Bruce Wayne, he's going to pay back and he's all fucked up, I can see the line being strung together. But just that it's a random guy, and I know someone's gonna say, well, it's not random because like Arthur's actions inspire other people and he took that away, but still, it doesn't matter. It's just some random fucking inmate that knifes him. My last point with throw to you guys is, to me, I said this to Madison, Harley killing him on the steps would have been 1,000 times better than
100%.
if
I
you're
thought it was
gonna-
coming, and
Yeah.
it would have fit so well, right? It would have gone to that same dream sequence of her shooting him. You could have the exact same like moment where it goes from him stabbing, and then it goes back to her on stage with him bleeding.
Yes.
I was like shocked when it didn't happen.
He dies on the stairs, which are
Yeah.
iconic for that character, right? And that's where it's like she
Big
at least
miss.
I would buy that of like she felt betrayed. She was trying. She fell in love with an idea, right? And she even says that like, "Oh, well, the idea's gone. You said you're not Joker." So she felt so betrayed by this guy, almost fooled, right? Like he is, a shyster. Like he pulled the wool over. It's like, yeah, I am the Joker. Oh, well, really, I'm not. I was hoping that he was gonna meet her on the steps and said that he just like lied and he was doing that as an act to like continue on because that doctor they are doing the Joker thing where he's like, I don't think he's crazy, I think he just acts crazy. I thought, oh, they're introducing this could be something really interesting, but no, it was just I don't even know what Arthur really is. He just is a guy with a lot of mental health issues, I guess. That which he was, but I thought like the point of that movie he was transitioning into something else and just accepting some of these badisms. But yeah, I think if they're going to do this kill thing and the whole betraying of Joker, I don't like that. But Harley, that ending with the answer was right there, and they
No.
missed it.
That was a major drop, honestly. Like have this as a alternate ending, maybe, that's
Yeah.
released like a week from now or
10
like,
years from now.
roaming the internet. I think that would be an interesting idea, but to have it in the main film, it definitely brings down some points for me because I was really disappointed in the overall route we were going of him just admitting that like no, this like there is no Joker, it's just me.
Yep.
It just feels like you said earlier, it is a de-evolution of the character in my mind because it like that first film, as fucked up as it is, like it's beautiful in a twisted sense of where he gets to when he has the music and the makeup on and the suit and he's doing the dance on the stairs. Like it's just such a big crescendo moment, and then it seems like we're kind of deconstructing that in this film, and it's not the whole film by any means, and
Yeah.
that's why like when we're in the middle, like I think that's the most fun of this of like the what would it be, the second act is the most fun part of this film for me, of just him interacting with Harley and going back and forth from the courthouse. And I was hoping we were going to just be doubling down on the idea of this Joker, and I thought he was going to escape, and I thought it was going to be basically him and Harley sailing off in the sunset, and that's just the end of the story, and we don't need a third. It's just I guess we didn't need this film now in hindsight, but like I think that would have been a fun tale, especially because I did like a lot of stuff going on in here, and but no, we wanted to just change that, and no, I don't have split personality. This is just who I am, and I'm a murderer, and that's that, and very unsatisfying exit with Harley. We've already mentioned it. I
Yeah.
wish that she shot him on the stairs, and it's also just like the whole idea of like him not actually being crazy. It just seemed like we like solved that from the first film because he had all those like traumatic child abuse situations that like, yeah, that would leave someone extremely fucked up and probably with split personality disorder. And his lawyers even detailing that like he had this fantasy built up. Like it seemed like it was a perfect defense that he is split personality, and he just throws it out the trash and starts defending himself, which was fun because he's the Joker in the moment, right? Like he's wearing the makeup when he's interviewing Gary, and like he is just fully off the rails, and I like how he's kind of going back and forth in that moment, right? Like when because he's like got the accent, and then Gary says something like, how could you do this to me, like you're the only one that was nice to me, and he just like snaps and he's talking as Arthur again, and like I just love that sequence because it seemed like a perfect example that he is actually split personality, but then we just kind of say no, I'm just a murderer, and that's that. And yeah, just really disappointing of a third act because of all those reasons I just listed.
Taylor, you gonna go as that Joker killer for Halloween this year?
No, that's not my idea of a costume.
Next year.
Yeah, maybe. The fact, Travis, you said that people are thinking, or like, is the rumor like Bruce Wayne was supposed to be in the asylum, and like, are people?
There was
thinking,
rumors
like,
that early on, yeah.
crazy guy could have been Bruce Wayne.
I don't think in this film, no. I think
No.
if that was filmed, they
Set up for the Batman Who Laughs or whatever that one's called.
yeah,
Yeah.
Batman Last. Yeah, no, I think that was either a rumor and not true at all. It was in the film, they cut it, or they just cut it even before filming. But
Yeah, no, I just think that I mean, I already spoke to just Joker and just what happened with his
What about the
story
murder,
kind
though?
of changing.
the way he goes out,
Yeah, I think that you guys said it. Him dying on the stairs by Harley would have been the most ideal because it just feels like the bomb goes off, he gets hijacked by some goons, and he just wanders around for a bit trying to get to where he's going, and that's it. Then he gets arrested, and then we see him die afterwards.
Also, I got a question. Just as you're going off this, I just thought of it. Like, so he somewhat escapes. He clearly isn't the orchestrator of his escape, but he still escapes while he's getting his verdict or whatever for his sentencing, and then he's back in jail in Arkham later on. What would happen in that case if like wouldn't he just go straight to the chair? Because it's like, hey, they found him guilty. He's on trial for the death penalty.
they
And
don't
then-
always do the death penalty
is there a-
right away, though.
But is there like another trial, or is it just like a waiting period?
There
for
could
that?
be because they might have thought he did the bombing.
Yeah, and then I don't know. It's just like, and then like the guards are orchestrating his death with this fucking psycho new Joker guy. Like, it just didn't really make sense.
that's
And
why. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and it's also just weird too. Of I get the speech because he never says this because he does say he wants another chance, but it's just also weird for me to talk about how he feels bad about killing these people. He made these mistakes, but then to also like want to run away. It's like, well, you can't have the character have this sympathetic speech like I fucked up, and that should be the moment like I should have the death penalty. Give me the chair, but it's just like, oh, I'm free, Lee. Like we can go. It's like, what? Like so, what's their point of speech? Like, I guess in his mind he feels. And that is the problem, right? Because anyone can say, well, it's a character with mental health. So, like, they go through that. I know, but for me, I felt like the first film established some guidelines with him. People can adapt and evolve, I guess, but I feel like they still stuck with a lot of those guidelines because he would act a lot. Look at that interview with Steve Guggen. I don't remember. Steve Guggen, I think it is his last name. Again, a scene that I say, that is awesome. Love that scene. I think this movie has a lot of great little dark humor moments, and just a moment when he's like starting the interview and like Arthur's face is halfway in there. Same thing, like walking in the trial when he's reacting. Fuck, is he funny, man? He's so good at that stuff. But that's what I mean. Where it's like, oh, he's starting to interview the Joker now here. Like that's coming out. Like I said, he kissed his lawyer before, so I felt like in the first film and the second one, for the most part, there's guidelines of, oh, Arthur when he's on meds and when he's off. But then that speech kind of felt like he was back on meds. But then again, it's just like, well, what does this character really do? I guess he just wanted to tell this jury that the Joker doesn't exist. But I don't know. Taylor, sorry I cut you off. But
Steve Coogan, that's his
Steve
name.
Coogan, thank you.
I just think of what is it? The other guys. It's just rolling that movie. Fuck, I love that movie.
The guy, the money guy,
The
just money
cucumber
launderer.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's got
the
cucumber
cucumber water. 2 tickets to see. Oh, he's great in that. Isn't he in Tropic Thunder
He's in
as
Tropic
well?
Thunder
He's in
as well.
Tropic
Yeah,
Thunder.
He's the
Thunder.
director. Let's make
director.
a great movie. Of the fucking yeah, come on. Ben Stiller.
I gotta rewatch that movie.
Eating his head. Yeah.
Good one, guys. Good one.
Yeah, what the effects nowadays? Anyway, Sarah, we were talking about the deaths or his death or something.
Yeah, I think him dying in Arkham, it's just a completely underwhelming death. I just don't like it at all, and I hate that the guards kind of get they're the ones that come out on top in this movie, and I don't like that. I think that everything else with the guards being pissed off at him, and when they were dragging him and like kind of not waterboarding him, but like roughly like cleaning his face off and then like taking his clothes off and then just dragging him, and they just fucking slam him against the wall, and it's that head smack, and as they're moving him, he just like daintily like slaps the one guard.
That
on
was
the-
so
on the
good.
face.
Just
Because they're like,
Yeah.
Like-
is he knocked out? Is he passed out? And he
Yeah,
just, like, slaps him.
Like he is such a fucking great Joker, but it just at the end of the day, with his death and the way they transition everything, it just feels like Phillips is like, yeah, at the very end of this movie, we're just gonna undo everything and just like show that okay, it's inspired the real Joker at the end. I just feel like it just does such a disservice to Joaquin Phoenix's character. He's great, and again, this is kind of going backwards a little bit, but just those moments where, again, in the musical sequences where he's in like the courtroom and he's singing and he's just like, he's all jokerized up and he's just like screaming and yelling and he's fucking maniacal, and he takes his fucking the mallet. I can't remember what it is in the courtroom. The thing
Gavel.
the gavel. Yeah, he takes, it's like a jumbo one, and he walks up to the judge and just fucking starts wailing on his head. Like, man, this guy feels like like a fucking Joker. Like, I love it. So it really is just a shame that they gave up on the character, and that's gonna be my biggest con, is really that ending and that third act. Ever since, like, the explosion was awesome, and I wish that was, Harley planned, and that Harley was getting him out of there, and that he didn't give up on being the Joker. He was going to be the Joker, and this was it, and he just gets off, and they run off together. That would have been great. I would have loved it. Give him a anti-hero happy ending.
Yeah.
you know
I thought honestly when he addresses the jury for his closing statements, I thought he was actually gonna like rat out the guard, like Mad Eye Moody's character, and just say like last night he like killed this guy, and just start like going in on just how the whole system is like against everyone, and like just kind of going back to his issues that he has in the first film, like with just nobody care. Like I guess he kind of talks about some of those instances, but
Yeah.
it just leads into like, no, there's no Joker, and it's just like, oh wow, like out of all the option like avenues we were gonna go, this is not what I thought was gonna happen, and it's just not that satisfying. And Ricky just fucking, poor Ricky, he just got strangled and no one's gonna know, and the guards are just getting away with it, and yeah, it's wasted potential, honestly, is what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's more of them trying to subvert expectations, because you have all the shitty characters in the first movie kind of get their comeuppance, right? Like you have the other guy at Pogo's who gives him the gun, who kind of gets him fired. Whatever. I'm not saying Joker should be killing people, but in his eyes, he kills them, right? And then you got Murray who makes fun of him. He kills him. Even the mother, to extent, which we learn more
Well,
about.
definitely
Just,
the
yeah,
mother just
yeah. But like even in the first one, they don't have the greatest relationship. Where in this one, you have, I would argue, Lee taking advantage of him. She gets the upper hand because she just leaves him, right? You have the guards who beat him and I think rape him. I don't know if I'm reading that, but I thought that's what they did to him, because they took him to the shower and took off his pants. So it's like, to me, that's like, there's only one thing they're doing there. They didn't have to take his pants off. Why is he just in his drawers
cleaning
now?
his ass crack. He's the
Well,
one
and he
for a
can't
few
even
days.
walk. They have to drag him to the jail cell. They could just beat him up, but it was like, I don't know. It felt odd that they take him to the shower, in my opinion, and then he had no pants on. So, and then they kill the other guy. So then you got all three of those guards, which is funny that there's three of them, because it's three like the
bullies,
the
yeah.
3 billionaire people or whatever. And I'm not sure if there's another one, but that's at least, you could even argue like Steve Guggen is like he doesn't really embarrass him, but kind of a little bit. It's like all these people in the first movie that, okay, you messed with him, eventually came around, he got you, and this time that didn't really happen. They got the last laugh on him. The guards didn't get any trouble. Lee is, I guess, free and also just rich. So she doesn't have, I don't know what she's going to do now. Maybe she's going to go find the fucking new Joker in prison and get impregnated by him. And then like Steve Guggen's just gonna go on, and he's like a Murray that's unpunished because he's trying to take advantage of the situation, right? Because Arthur says like, you don't care about me, you don't care about this. You would actually be asking about like why I'm changed and how I'm different, how I want to be a different person, not like talking about Joker and talking about Lee, like talking about like paparazzi things. So it was a similar thing, but with obviously Murray had a gun and he killed him and he reined it back there. So it's kind of like I said, double, where it's like, okay, all the people that are shitty to him, they get away. And how he became the Joker, well, he's gonna unbecome the Joker in this movie, which I don't think is like, Arthur Fleck is still like a character by himself that's interesting, but I, as we said, just don't think it's earned, and it doesn't match up with certain things that happens. Again, why does he run away from prison? And even then, I guess his pitch, because like I said, he does not say that he wants the death penalty. His pitch is, I'm not the Joker. So if he's saying that, he's just saying that he's a killer, but he's saying like, oh, I'm sorry.
I regret it.
I regret it, and I'd like another chance. But it's like, well, if you're just a killer, then like, You don't deserve a second
Six-person
chance.
manslaughter. Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, you just submitted to another one. It's like, what's your angle here? And that's why I was kind of hoping it was like an act when that therapist said like, oh, I think he pretends, and I thought, oh, this would be cool. Like he pretends he's sympathetic, and he uses that to get out of the situation somehow. But no, I guess he was just sympathetic, which again, when later on, it's just a few episodes, not a few episodes, a few 20, 15 minutes ago, he's in the prison and all the criminals are losing their mind. They're yelling and he's like laughing, but it's not that like hold back, like nervous laugh. It's like the fucking Joker laugh, all these people. And you're seeing like how like in an Arkham City, Joker gets some goons because they've all like, oh, the cause of Joker. So it's like, it's not like he's off his meds and he's like, I don't know. He even fires his lawyer so he can become the fucking Joker. So it's just like he wants to be the Joker. So it just doesn't track it. Like I said, it would have been different than the whole movie if people are trying to pull it out of him and he doesn't want that and Harley doesn't want that. Because even in the first movie when they say, oh, like, are you wearing that makeup because of the riots? And he says, no, that has nothing to do with me. So they could have done that. They could have went the whole time of like, oh, I don't really want to become the Joker again. Like that's a bad thing. But they didn't. It felt like Harley's like, you should go off your meds. And he's like, oh, I already am. Like he said it in a way like he was excited about it. So it's like, I don't fucking know. This movie makes it very confusing of what they, want with Arthur to do. And I think that's not great because even the first one has mental health, but I think there's a through line for that character, So
I feel like the mental health aspect is even, like it's more relevant, and maybe that's not the best term, but it's executed better.
Yeah.
Like like it is a big shadow over our character the whole movie, and it's shown that he just doesn't have the support that he clearly needs, like support system. The city's like taking away these social services from him, and it's just he's a murderer and definitely not a good person. But like we were saying earlier, and even just on the retro, it's like the movie still makes you feel for this character because he is still a human, even though he is a murderer and going through all these things. Like he still was dealt a shitty hand. Like he shouldn't have been this individual, right? Like he was abused as a child, that like he couldn't defend himself and just thrown in that situation. So you do feel for him, even though he ends up being a murderer. So, and this movie they just don't really do that at all. And then something else that I found really confusing in comparison to the first film is the first film, there's a bunch of moments where it's very clearly, well, maybe not very clearly, but it's in Arthur's head of things that are going on, whether it's the relationship with Zazie Beetz or his comedy routine. And it's like the trick is kind of revealed later on in the film, so you know exactly what's happening. And then in this one, I guess at moments it's pretty obvious when it is a dream sequence because he's on Broadway or like on a rooftop dancing with Harley,
and he's not even with people. They're like sometimes they sing, but even then, like Taylor said, there's characters like shut up, stop singing. So you can tell there's times where they're actually singing out loud, but when they go to a different world, it's not like with Zazie Beetz. It's more like the Murray hallucination when it's like, you're a good son. Like almost all of them are that movie. There is no like Zazie Beetz like, oh,
reveal.
this is like
a gut feeling like, oh my god, that wasn't the case this whole time.
Which I was worried when they were talking about the stairwell, when she's like, oh, the idea's over. I'm like, when she's like, oh, we weren't ever gonna get away. I'm like, oh, please don't tell me they're just fucking in a jail cell somewhere, like talking about what they would have done. And I'm glad they at least didn't go that route. But I was worried it was happening.
But like in terms of Harley, like, did that really happen? That she just got allowed to go visit him in his cell and they just fucked in the cell? Like that was a dream, right?
No,
even though there's some like it doesn't like it seems like the logistically that is not possible that would have happened, that the guards would have just allowed her to go in there for them to just bone.
Well, I think because that
or is
reveal,
that the case?
I think it is the case because I think the reveal that she has money. I think that's how that happened. Is she paid them off? That's how I took it. Is like that's how because even when she goes to see them, that guy's like off the bars. That still is like that would not be allowed in real life if a guy is currently on trial and then the let's just say the wife character is sent in and is like all hugging up on him. So I think that did happen, and we got the most on purpose pitiful sex scene of all time. Arthur needs to work on his
5 pump
technique
jump.
there.
Yeah.
Even then, just like he's just jumping up like a frog. But that's
Can you
probably
do it?
other than which they little cut of like when the lawyer's talking about abuse and said sexual abuse. They show Arthur's face like he just flinches quickly and then goes back to drawing. But other than that, I'm gonna assume that Arthur's not been with a woman, so that was probably his first time
probably.
too. So and the thing that I don't know is if she was actually pregnant or not, because she just said he
would
says
say
like,
no.
oh, we're gonna have a child together, and she just walks off. So it's like, But the thing I wanted to mention before I forgot, they did say at the end before he got killed, there was someone there to visit him, and I wonder who it was. We'll
I
never
think that
know.
was just the guard just baiting him to get.
Oh,
in
you
that
think
hallway.
so?
And then yeah.
Okay,
It just seemed really orchestrated, and it's not like the guard came back like, "Are you
could
coming?"
be, yeah, could be, yeah.
And it just seemed like their distance away from each other was kind of sketchy. Like it just seemed like a really obvious ambush to me. But
Yeah, no, you're probably right, but I like to think maybe someone's out there. You know, maybe it's no, I was gonna say Thomas Wayne. He's dead. I don't know who it would be. It's Bruce Wayne. Yeah, he's waiting. Yeah, yeah. What were we talking about? Well, we'll take an ad break right here, and then we'll get back on track. So we'll be right back. And we're back. Where we want to go?
Taylor, you stepped away. We were talking about just like the mental health aspect and
The sex.
the sex, the pitiful
Yeah,
sex.
is that how you do it?
I was bringing
prison.
up that I felt like that scene didn't actually happen and it was his mind, even though it seemed like it was. And then Travis made the argument that it's probably because she just has a lot of power and money to like pay off the guards to get in there. Was it obvious for you? Because for me, I'm like, there's no way that actually happened. Like, this just seems like a total dream. But then they just, for the rest of the film, it's just running with that. Like, that actually did happen.
I thought, because we got the whole fake relationship in the first one that he was like sleeping with.
Yeah. So I thought it was going to be something like that.
Yeah, but then I guess, yeah, I almost thought like they wouldn't necessarily repeat that, and we would get like a resolution quickly about it to see what was really going on. And I thought for sure, like when he's having sex with her and like they actually were doing it, it was gonna cut to like she's not actually in the room and he's just like,
Oh, yeah.
having
Looking
like
in
a
the
lighthouse scene,
with the
yeah.
fucking mermaid idol.
exactly, yeah. But no, he was really
Dock your
he was
pay.
really doing it. So
Abusing yourself with the tool shit.
yeah. So he was really having a good time in there, and yeah, I just think she was just an expert manipulator. Yeah, so just very interesting scene all around with her and just her obsession with him, and it was just another step in the direction of just trying to unleash him and turn him into a back into the Joker. But I didn't believe that she was telling the truth when she said she was pregnant.
Yeah. Me neither.
It just seemed pretty sus. But I agree with you though in the hallway with his death, because you said that you felt like it was an ambush and there wasn't really anyone that he had to go and meet. Like when he's watching the TV and then the main guy, who's the main warden guy, walking by, like nods his cap towards Arthur, and then after that you get the guy saying, "Oh, in the hallway, let's go." It's all way too set up. Like they're all too chipper with him, and I just feel like it is a setup. Like you're leading this guy to go and meet someone, but you fast walk and leave him behind, and then you don't go back to check. Like it's a lot of sus. So
Yeah.
I can't remember what the initial question was though. After this, like what our direction was.
We were just talking about like the mental health aspect, and
Right,
for me, it just felt a lot more clear and stronger in the first film, whereas this one, it's just it's talked about, but it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not like the main cloud of the film, but it kind of is in comparison to the first one, in my opinion.
But I think that's where the musical aspect comes in to kind of alleviate that. You don't feel like it's as heavy, because you're totally right. The first one, you feel that it's really weighs you down. And that first one, it is a very heavy film, and you're there with Arthur as he's trying to deal with this mental his capacity of it, I guess, just being abused, and just how shitty Gotham really, really is, and how badly people are treating each other. And in this one, you're only getting it from just the guards, really. You're not getting it from any other outside forces. Like when you see the people that are in Arthur's life from that first one, the counselor and whatnot, trying to kind of be there for him, and he's
Who's
just
back in this movie? She came back.
Yes, yeah, she was. So you have Arthur in that first one calling them out, saying, "Oh, you guys don't really care. It's just a job, yada yada yada." They lightly tiptoed on that in here, mostly just with the reporter, the Tropic Thunder guy, just trying to conduct the interview. And Arthur's like, you guys want to keep focusing on the past. We should be talking about right now, yada yada yada. But it's a shame that they didn't really explore that more. The fact that like, hey, there's a lot of bullshit going on. Like you said, Travis, you thought that they would kind of highlight in the courtroom, or you thought that for maybe they would talk about the guard, or was that you, Kirkland, that brought that
That's
up?
Kirkland, yeah.
That's Kirkland, yeah. So just I like and just talk about the shittiness and because yeah, they even did it on the Franklin Murray show in the first one as well, just where he's talking about how people are horrible in the city and yada yada yada. And I feel like that is just a missed opportunity. They didn't really reinforce that to your credit, Kirkland, what you were saying, and just how this, in comparison to the first one, didn't really do a lot on the topic of the mental health and just that aesthetic.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think you're right with the musical aspects. They do supplement it a little bit, but I think it's kind of all over because I feel like it's a bigger deal. Like him going off his medicine, the first one, big deal. Where in the first act, it's like, hey, I'm off my meds, and you're kind of off to the races, right? So that's not as big a deal. And I feel like they try to do the split personality thing, but they go in and out on that because you most of the time it's I don't know, because even I guess for me another thing that like it's a I guess a minor critique, but not really. I guess it's a big one for my personal liking. I didn't mind a little bit of Walking doing like the Southern lawyer sort of gimmick for a bit, but I wish he did it for like 25% and then gone to like Joker mode because as we talk about when he is on the stage with Murray, he feels like a different character. And we didn't really get to see that character again this go around in my opinion, like that version of him. And he even said, I think that's what we're get because he's like, oh, I was gonna sit down and just go off on you guys, but that's when he talks about how he's not the Joker. But I kind of was missing that, so I wish that kind of happened and you could have had a Harley Quinn like getting all excited by that because I liked it enough, but eventually, especially once that scene got more serious, I was like, okay, you can drop the accent, but yeah. So I I think the mental stuff is still around, but yeah, it's definitely not as strong, and it's just a bit more. It's like we said about the ending. It's just a bit more convoluted this go around because they have stuff where Puddles is saying you were a nice guy, and you're only nice to me, so this messes me up, and you can see him kind of like breaking a little bit, but then that's where I almost need like the entire trial to be like that. It's like that one conversation with that guy just maybe flips him and decides, oh, you know what? Maybe I'm not a Joker. Maybe I'm a reflect. It's like, well, Gary was still around in the first movie, and you still flipped and you went through your shit, right? So it's not like why. What about Gary this time is doing anything different, especially because Lee's there, which again, good humor going on with Lee, where he's always looking for her. Lawyer's in the middle of a big deposition, very serious, and then he passes her a note. Can Lee sit closer?
She's like
next
right
time?
about to go up to do it. She's like got all of her notes ready in her
Yeah.
mind. Last note thing she's seeing, he's like, "Can you get her a better seat tomorrow?"
Yeah, it's like that stuff really good. I liked it. Again, I still laughed a lot of this on like purpose stuff. I don't think there's anything like so bad I laughed at. But yeah, and good job. I like that actress that plays lawyer. She's been in tons of stuff. But yeah, I thought that flip of him when he was gonna be his own lawyer was gonna be really exciting. But I don't think I got it. I didn't get like my like a Joker scene, which again I think the ending is trying. Did you guys feel that at all with Lee and the two other Jokers that they're trying to do some sort of messaging about like owning certain things, or was I reading too much into that? Like an idea of the
No,
Joker because they kidnap him. They're like I don't know what their plan was, but I think they're gonna like force him to still just be the
Well,
Joker, or I don't know what those two goons' plans was.
I think it's a really good observation and one that now that you mentioned it, it's like, oh yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense in hindsight. Maybe I'm just a little bit too smooth-brained to notice that in the actual film, but no, it totally makes a sense, especially with like maybe certain people idolizing, let's just say a celebrity, for example, and it's just like, I love this person in this movie, so therefore they're my messiah, and like I love this character that they portrayed, so this must be them, and then that's probably not, like they're just playing a character, right?
Yeah, oh,
And,
yeah.
especially if you throw in a mental health aspect, like a lot of unhealthy individuals would think that that is reality and like just get obsessed with it, and I think that parallels very well with this Arthur Fleck story, even from the first film, right? Of him just looking at Murray as being the father figure that he was, but when he actually meets him, he's just a total asshole to him and just not really a good person, of just bullying someone on stage just for his own fame and clout. So, yeah, I think it, like, as a whole of just both these movies, it definitely is something that is relevant with what did you even say the term? It's getting late now. I don't just toxic fandom.
Yeah, and I think it
idea.
has maybe a bit to do with like the first movie too. Remember, everyone was worried about like, oh, what, like maybe it's they're trying a way to be like, hey, if you didn't get it, like Joker, don't cheer for Joker, like he's not a good guy. And for
Yeah.
me, I was always annoyed because I just thought like the message of that movie was not to, for anyone that was like, oh, well, we got to worry about like making a mentally ill patient, you know, become the Joker, and us, you know, believing that. Again, I still think in that movie they show, okay, the system failed him, but he also did some things along the way too that like kind of helps that. So I guess I never took that, and maybe that's where they were trying to take it, but I never took that as like, oh well, that's why. Especially just even him doing that speech about I'm not the Joker is almost like it makes us mad, and maybe that's the design purpose. Is like, yeah, you Joker fans, you're gonna be mad at this because you want him to be Joker, but he's not. The same way, like we wouldn't want any of you to be Joker, but it's like, yeah, but like I think you went down that route already. But I think they're trying to get some there. Again, I think there's a story, there's a storyline aspect you can do with that, but I think just to tack it on the third act is maybe a little too late.
Yeah. Taylor, do you want to comment or anything we just mentioned? I was just gonna go in a different direction.
No. Go for
Okay,
it.
perfect. I was gonna ask you specifically, Travis. This Taylor, of course, you can comment if you want, but
No,
just the whole
me.
idea. Well, you're the Clown Prince of podcasts. So I
Yeah.
gotta ask you for the idea of what the Joker is and his basically being the complete opposite of what Batman is, right? And just that's what makes that dynamic so intriguing, and how it's, you know, the great Heath Ledger said in the Dark Knight film, it's like an impossible. Oh my gosh, what is it? An immovable object, meaning in
An unstoppable
force, and just
We're
that whole
destined to do this
dynamic
forever.
of like, and you know, you can make the arguments that, especially for the first film, that it's not really a Joker film, like it's
Yeah.
an Arthur Fleck tale, because like Arthur Fleck, he did get dealt a shitty hand, and a lot of the system that did fail him, even though, you know, he met halfway and committed these murders.
And even
Like-
admits that it's him in this movie, right?
Yeah.
He just says that he had control and stuff. So
And you do feel for him at many times. Like, is that
Yeah.
a trait that you, like your stereotypical Joker, you would want to have?
no, I think people don't like that because I think people also brought, which I guess is fair. Of, hey, I see this, and not that it happened, right? But I see this guy, his struggles. Why do I want to see Batman beat the shit out of him when I know he had like abusive home and stuff? So I think it only works here. I think most time Joker, I think the version people like the most is the. You don't know his name. You don't know where he came from. He's just like an enigma, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like a little bit of that. I've always said the Heath Ledger stuff that it works for that movie. I like my Joker to be acid, bleach, and everything, but I prefer Joker as far as what I thought they were going to maybe do is I like Joker acting crazy, but he's still. I'm not saying he's not like a little kooky and missing some marbles, but like he still has it mostly together. He's
Yeah.
not a guy rolling in his feces or just laughing whenever. I think it's a guy that portrays that. So that's the thing. Like I think most people like Joker to be cunning and smart. Where like this guy he wasn't that way in the first one. I always talked about this Joker like he had like if you're looking at stats, he had like the ultimate luck stat. Like the first movie that happened, same thing. This he's about to go to prison forever, death penalty, and then a fucking explosion happens, and that's where I took it. It's like, oh, it's like the Charles Manson sort of thing. But no, most Jokers are they're an enigma. You don't know. It's like, you know, like a Pennywise. You don't know where he came
Right.
from. When they've tried to be like, oh, he was a criminal, this and that. But I think that's people's preferred version. They don't like a Joker origin or to know his like full motivations per se.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why I get so drawn to like the performance was phenomenal, but specifically Heath's tale
Yes.
and like Christopher Nolan's telling of that,
because
because
that's that, right?
and like he gives the origin of like, you know, my father was very abusive, did this to me, and like, okay, you can make the argument that wow, like he had a rough hand, but then he also changes the story multiple times,
Yes.
so it's like I can't even believe what he's saying. So he is a wild card, and there's many times where he's acting crazy, but it feels like he is acting it, right? Because he is still like the one
Yeah.
running the show and still this crime boss. So
One of my
um,
favorite lines in The Dark Knight is when he has that mob meeting and like, you're crazy. And he just like deadpan. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not crazy. And then he goes back to being crazy. But it's like, is he just a crazy guy that if you say you're crazy, he doesn't like that? Or was that him breaking character
Yeah.
for a moment? Like, no, I'm not fucking crazy. Like, I know what's going on here. And
Yeah.
that's what I prefer. But that's where that's where I never had a problem with this. I guess he's not the Joker now, but like this version, because like, okay, you've done that. What is this version? What is there a Joker of like literally, okay, mental health and abuse creates them, right? And there's some issues, but I'm fine if it kind of makes you uncomfortable. But again, in this movie, it's just Arthur just had a shit life and he decided to kill some people and he regrets it. It's like, okay, I guess I don't look at that at the end of Joker 1 of him being too regretful, but I guess he's had 2 years to think about it, so I guess he is.
Yeah, it's just something I wanted to bring up on the retro that I forgot to. So
There we go. What about you, Taylor? Where do you want to go next?
Oh, what do you guys think of the intro, the classic like Looney Tunes kind of style thing? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very fun, kind of like I guess a recap of the first film in a weird way, but in his own kind of.
well, that would have been the
view.
TV movie that they kept talking about, right? That was shown.
I didn't think so.
I
No?
don't think so
Okay.
either.
No, I was hoping we were going to see clips of the TV movie and it's like who were they going to get to play Joaquin, but I
Yeah.
think it was something different, which a
Interesting,
great
okay.
comedic moment when him and before trial, he's talking to Lee because he found out Lee lied to him, but he's like, oh, what about the movie? Is that bad? She's like, no, the movie's good. I only watched it like 4 or 5 times, but it's good. And then Zazie Beetz is on the stand and says like, oh, and I had to watch that awful movie. And he looks back at her, he's like, awful? And she's like, no, it's good. And then he's like smiling and like, good stuff, you know? Like, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I totally thought that was the TV movie. That like it's like why else would we show this? And it's not even like it's a true recap because it's like there's no cops that come in and beat the shit out of him like on stage.
Yeah.
But I like the vibe, especially to start the movie, because I'm like, what the fuck are we in for? But yeah, I don't know. It was in hindsight, it's an interesting choice.
And that posits the whole split personality thing, though, right? And that's
yeah,
where
it's
it's
true.
like,
Yeah.
again, he says that's not the case, but they have like the shadow of him and it locks him up and takes the like the paint. And to me, that's what I did like about this version. I always liked that pitch of, they said the first time of, oh, his laugh in like a meta sense is almost like the Joker's trying to get out, right? And I kind of like that the abuse and the mental health cruxes that he's been put in has created this thing that is the Joker. So that's why, again, it's weird at the end when he can kind of just go back to being, it feels like at the end at times he's Arthur on some meds and not the Joker. But that's where I kind of liked this, where it's like, okay, I took the ending of the first movie, he accepted that. But yeah, he's not the Joker, but he's still, that's in him, right? And even then, multiple times they have characters asking like, oh, can I talk to Joker? Or what would Joker say? They do refer to him as like a almost different entity. And I don't mind that. It's just when he obviously again confirms it's not him, but yeah, I liked it. Was something different, something fresh to start off the film that I wasn't expecting. So it was nice to get the old they did the old Warner Brothers logo last time. This time they did like the animation one, so that was fun to see. I want to shout out Brendan Gleeson. Really liked him in this movie. Like, I think he's just like a phenomenal actor. Obviously, we've talked about him multiple things, but he did such a good job of, you would never know, was he talking down to Arthur? Was he actually enjoying Arthur? Was he making fun of Arthur? Because he did all those things where there's times where all the other guards would be shitting on him and he would like genuinely stand up for him. I thought he was going to have some really big ulterior motive to get him that singing class, and nothing was really
He just
revealed.
seems like a guy that likes songs, like he's singing himself. Like
He just
Yeah.
wanted to sing. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
fucking hilarious.
But then you got moments where that happens and they bond and he gives him a cigarette and Arthur pats him on the back, but then he just
Yeah.
fucking turns around like an abusive dad and just hits him in the head and just like, okay, that's enough. Like that, I loved the performance. I
I love how we
loved,
don't even see his face too in that moment. Like it's just like
Yeah.
a back shot, and he just stops for a second, and then just fucking smacks him in the back of the head. It's not like Arthur's like, what the hell was that for? It's like, okay, yeah,
It's just accept it
this
because you
has
can't.
been a thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't do anything. So no, I thought that performance was like a low key, very fun performance. I think
Totally.
he did a very good job, and I was mad he didn't get his comeuppance. But yeah, no, I really liked for just like a minor. And it's not minor in the story, but there's not much to. It's not like he comes in the third act and he's the one that blows the bomb, right? But he's just like another kind of shitty person. But it's kind of like the Murray thing of like, yeah, he's kind of shitty, but these are also like all shitty people he's dealing with. Like that is a strength of this movie. Again, that they make us sometimes feel sympathetic for a guy that killed his mother, killed an innocent talk show host, because you're like, oh, those guards treating him like shit. But really, like, well, why should we care? Because this like Arthur is a shitty person in a sense, right? But they do a good job of making you feel uncomfortable with this guard. So
Yeah. Oh dear, it happened third time
dear.
tonight. What? Oh, when I saw his name, I was like, oh man, this must be like Domhnall Gleeson's dad or something.
It
No
is, yeah.
relation. Interesting.
no, that's
Is
his
it
dad.
actually?
Yeah.
What the hell? IMDb lied to me. It said that he wasn't. He wasn't.
Donald and Loren, yeah, and they're in Harry Potter together.
There you go. I'm happy
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, there you
Mad
go.
Eye Moody. Martin Scorsese too was in this. He was the judge.
He was not the judge.
I know, but he fucking looked like him for sure. Every time I went to the judge, I'm like, holy fuck, Marty's in here. That's funny.
He did, and that was something where like I was fine with the whole like by the law it says he can dress whichever way he wants, but he's just like okay. I don't want any outbursts from the crowd. The
Yeah.
crowd continues to outburst through the entire movie, and he's like, "Don't make this a
He
scene."
seemed powerless, really.
Yeah, when he's like, and that like made it feel like less believable in the sense like, oh, is this fake? And it wasn't. But when he's like, yeah, and I don't want to show, and Arthur's like standing up, then doing his stand-up routine, he gets a chair, gets a microphone. Like, I feel like even just this voice he was doing, the judge would be like, hey, knock this shit off and talk normal. Like, it felt like that could have had more weight to it, or just don't have the judge do that. But yeah, it just felt like Arthur was getting away with like, I'm not gonna say murder, but anything in that courtroom because it's just like, oh well, I guess technically he can do this, but it's like I don't know about that, but
It seemed like every day of the trial, he's like, just a reminder, I'm not putting up with any funny
Yeah.
business. And then funny business would happen.
the whole trial is funny
whole
business, you know. He's talking to the cameras and everything, so yeah, no, that was just a moment I got a chuckle out of that. Classic kind of just movie crowd where and lots of cheering. I love when he came out the first time and he's given like and that's the weird thing because it's just like
Tony Stark.
yeah, like in the
He's-
first movie we talked about this where okay, his intention was not to create like a clown mob, but when it happened and he's accepted by them, he's like, oh, there's finally people that accept me. So I feel like him even becoming the Joker fits more with the Arthur we met in the last movie because he just wanted to be accepted one way or another, right? And if it's to be Joker, then I'm going to be Joker. And again, I just think there was not enough in this movie for me to believe him turning against that. So, yeah, again, funny moment there with him addressing the crowd. There's lots of funny moments, and the crowd is cheering a lot. And I do want to mention this because it's late, and I don't want to forget it. I guess kudos to them. I got a little chuckle. Kudos to them for giving Harvey Dent his Two-Face origin.
Oh my God, I know. It's like, of course.
Bomb goes off. They show his body still alive, but half his face gone. So you know what? I like that they committed to the bit of like, hey, things aren't like the comics, but they're still gonna happen. And Harvey still became Harvey Two-Face. But yeah, my mind did not have any idea what was happening when that wall blew up. I did for a second think I didn't think Batman, but I thought, man, like something's happening here. And I guess kudos to them. He got away pretty easily, but yeah, he ends up with some people that just are in love with him and want to get him out of there. And then Arthur flees the stairs. Then again, he gets caught. So, yeah, good surprise moment there at least. So
I was definitely shocked. And then immediately just thought of the hilarious image if it's just fucking Batman in
Yeah.
the suit and everything. Like he's just
Arthur Fleck.
just like martyring people with an explosion. You're coming with me.
Yeah.
I like the meme. Something else that was a big thing in this movie, just like smoking and like cigarettes use and like massive in this film. And specifically in the early portion, I think it's when he's doing maybe the interview or maybe beforehand. like when he gets his first cigarette and he's just doing like a big drag. I'm not like a cigarette smoker or anything, but man, the way that he was just inhaling, I'm like, that just looks like it just feels so fucking good. Just his like deep inhale. There's like a big butt on the end. I mean, he's smoking throughout the whole film. Lady Gaga's smoking throughout the whole film, but I'm just like, man, that big deep drag he's taking right now. I feel like I'm getting just like secondhand like nicotine or whatever the hell you get from it. It just looked so tasty, even though smoking's terrible. But yeah, they sure made it look. You know, we've talked about in the past just how smoking looks so badass or sexy
cool.
in certain instances, but smoking's bad for you, so don't do that.
Yeah, don't do it. Yeah, lots of smoking in this movie from.
But like, if I'm on the death penalty, man, I'm fucking smoking 20 packs a day at that point. You know, get it in you.
What do you have to lose? You know, so
can't donate your lungs, I guess, to a good cause afterwards.
Yeah.
That's what you have to lose.
Yeah, I want to shout out this stuff just because, like, before I forget, I liked the meet cute with Harley and Joker. I liked her setting up that's a musical number I really liked, was them singing in the streets and the spotlights and everything. I enjoyed that. I like her starting the fire. And again, he did want to just watch the movie, so that was kind of a shout out to old Arthur, who, like, was a TV nut kind of in a way. But yeah, I liked everything. I just could have used a little more, maybe some bigger scenes there, but I think great job singing, great job in the musicals parts. So another good joke when she's talking about how she's gonna support him. He's like, "Oh, I bought your new like a place at your old apartment, so when you're out, you can come home." And he's like, "I don't want to go back there." Like, there's a lot of that stuff where there's like just one liners. Oh, that was the other one too. I said in the non-spoilers, but she's with the interviewers like, if he gets out, what are you gonna do? We're gonna build a mountain. And then just one interviewer's like, what does that mean? And then another interviewer's like, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I like that they again, there's some good little moments in there. But yeah, I liked Harley Quinn, but just or Lady Gaga, but could have used more. I could have used her getting another big scene, and maybe there would have been some fun of them going on a road trip together. I don't know. Maybe she should have been in the asylum longer. I don't know, because it feels like a big jump from she gets out to like instantly she's known as like the Joker's girlfriend or whatever. It's like, okay, again, we're not on the outside, so we don't know what's going on. But could have used a little more. But I liked everything that we did get, and that was another example of a musical I did like where he gets the information about her rich parents lying, and they have a musical number together where she starts out singing, and he's like, "Oh, it's supposed to be about me," and that's where again I thought he is still the Joker, because like that's a selfish thing to say. He didn't say about us; he said about me. So it's like, oh well, no, he's clearly still a Joker, but he's not. But again, that was another good scene of showing the dynamic fracture, but through music. So even though, like I said, I could have taken out when he said that at the end to Harley, like, "Can you just talk to me and stop singing?" That was me. A couple music numbers. I was like, okay, this is slogging for me. We need to speed this up here. So
I don't think I have much more to add. I don't really have any other notes. Smoking was my last note.
yeah, Taylor, anything else?
Don't think so. A lot of smoking. Every scene.
I did like that with the Zazie Beetz reveal. They did not reveal the Thomas Wayne thing, because I thought Zazie Beetz, when she said, "Oh, his mother made up the story," I thought she was gonna get into the Wayne thing.
Yeah, I am glad that they kept that secret.
So I was glad they kept that to the vest and let that up for interpretation there. But yeah, no, I'm sure we'll talk about this again with patrons, because I think it's going to be a divisive movie. I think it's like what we said at the beginning, where I can see someone not liking this, and I guess I'll just go now because I'm talking. I'm gonna give it a 6. I was gonna give it a 7, but I think it's just that ending really hurts. It's kind of like we just did this Ring of Power. I got a 7 because like, oh, there's a lot of the visual stuff or the filmmaking stuff. This film just looks beautiful many times. The blocking, the colors, the way they frame certain things. It's for a comic movie, one of the best looking ones. But I think that's where sometimes there's movies that have errors or have faults, but it's like the highs are so high, like a Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Where like visually that compares nothing to this movie, but that is like a 10 for me, because I had the enjoyment and some of the highs are so high. But with this, it's the reverse, where, I got some high highs, some middles, but like the lows are Solo, in my opinion. And luckily, I don't think it's
Yeah.
like worst comic book movie ever. People like if anyone thinks I've seen the hyperbole takes of all this worst movie of the year, please go watch the fucking Woody Woodpecker movie on Netflix and tell me. So if you think this is the worst movie of the year, I don't trust your fucking opinion about anything when it comes to film because there is so much more out there where it's like, yeah, go watch the Woody Woodpecker. No one can tell me that, like Madam Web is better than this. Like fuck off. Like you say you enjoy it more, that's great. But just from a standpoint, you pause or you mute this movie, which you want the musical aspect, right? But just the way it looks, just like the first one, fantastic. But yeah, I think a 6. I can't put in that 7 range because, as I've said many times, that's gets in that range of stuff where I have issues, but I'll rewatch it. It will be a minute. Like I said, I will rewatch this soon enough with Emily. I'm hoping we can hold off till home because I really don't want to see this in theaters. And I think once I tell Emily, I think she'll be like, "Yeah, I trust you enough. I can just watch this at home." And then after that, I don't know. I just feel myself kind of watching the first one, and then maybe just stopping there. Like and just kind of pretending it never happens, like some people do with the Star Wars prequels or sequels and everything. So yeah, that's what I think I'm going to be doing. But yeah, a 6. Unfortunately, this is a disappointment. I think I said I was hoping at least for like in the 8 range, and I think at times it was that way. But as the movie went on, it dropped, and yeah, definitely a letdown. So hopefully, I guess there's no hopefully because this is the end of the road for Joaquin Phoenix Joker. He's done with DC. Todd Phillips done so. I guess just hopefully we get some good Joker content with Barry. But at the end of the day, it doesn't take away what they did achieve with that first movie. I just think that it was a lightning can't strike twice, and they could not achieve that same. They could not achieve, or they got in the way of themselves, and we'll never know. So.
Yeah, I think I would go. It's tough because I feel like the more we talked about certain things, it definitely brought down some of my enjoyment. It's always tough when you have a sequel that brings down the quality of the first film. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's more egregious than just being like poorly written or something. It's like just leave the first one alone. Like don't bring that one down.
Yeah.
Like come on, just go down on your own. Don't bring others down with you. I think I'll do 6.5, just because I did really like that middle section. But yeah, like the back and the front were not great, but the innards were tasty for me. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think it's the. I mean, you said a lot of terrible movies that are definitely worse than this. By
This is gonna be better than
miles.
Venom in a couple weeks. I promise you. Like I
Yeah.
promise you. You may enjoy Venom more because it's funny and outrageous.
There's
and
some
great.
people in our
I get
theater that were
but
loving that trailer for Venom. And I'm
People
like,
fucking love
"Fuck,
Venom,
This is
man."
why it gets $1 billion.
Never hit $1 billion, by the way. Venom. Joker has, but
It's gotta. Come on.
I don't think Joker 2 is gonna, because that's one thing. I don't think it has. We'll talk about newscast. Nowhere near that rewatchability or recommending it. Like you gotta see Joker 2. Like I don't think so. I think there's some splotches in here where it's like, oh, this is kind of dull, or we're waiting around for a while. I think there's just one time there was a shot of Arthur just smoking for like a long time. I was like, I think I got it. Like he likes to smoke. Like let's move along, But nope.
But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yep, I think I'm gonna go with a a 7. So we got
There we
like
go.
going up by
Perfect.
0.5s all the way up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I
We
just
need more
think
people,
that
and then we'll get to a 10.
we need more people. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this movie has a lot of stuff going on in the first and second act that I can get on board with. I can really enjoy. Once we get to that third act, and then just them retroactively kind of backtracking with Arthur Fleck's character as a Joker. Don't like that at all, and so that's why I'm docking it pretty heavily because of that. That's just really, really unfortunate. But I think, though, that him embracing this character, like Joaquin Phoenix, just absolutely is phenomenal as Joker, and I love those moments where it's just the musical sessions that are in their studios and live action or live audience kind of setup. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think they really do a good job at showing how Arthur is going deeper and deeper into this Joker character. And yeah, that sprinkled with the humorous moments that are not humorous but humorously awkward. Really, really enjoyed all that too. So I think that this movie is something I will rewatch, but if I have to watch a Joker movie, I'm gonna be going to that first one more so, just because I like all that mental health like atmosphere that they're kind of like tackling when it comes to
I
Arthur.
like all that mental health.
I like all that mental health.
Give it on. Give it to me. Give me all that mental health.
I like how they're throwing that all onto Arthur, and it just feels like it's got so much more tension, so much more buildup leading towards that just fucking crazy ending, a lot more than what we got here. This just didn't feel climactic or anything like that, or it didn't feel like there's any tension building up towards this the ending of
Especially
this movie.
Arthur dies. It's like the most anticlimactic. Like I was fine with the death, as we said, but just the actual death, and that's even something like the way it's shot. I didn't think it was anything amazing, but
Yeah.
yeah. William from Sci-Fi Center says about the same thing. Gave Joker 6, had potential to be much more though, and I think that's how we all feel. I think it's like none of us are calling this a bad movie or one of the worst ever, because like you see the bones of certain ideas, but like yeah, I thought it was all there, but no, it was, you know, it's sometimes hard to recapture the magic, and that didn't happen this go around. But alas, I'm not sure if we'll talk about this. I still have Joaquin, I think, in my Golden Geeks nominee, but I don't think it's like 2018 where it was like a bullet of like, oh, this guy's winning for sure. It's like right now he's like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna bring him up because he's still great. Like the performance is still great, but it's not like an auto win. And same thing with Harley Quinn. That has to do with the material. So obviously we were a bit mixed. I've talked to some people that are mixed. So let us know in our Discord, Patreon, wherever you want to talk to us, what your thoughts are. We'd love to see hear this. And yeah, I'll be excited for next After 9 to talk with the patrons with this one, because again, I still say it's a positive. I'd much rather get a movie like this where we'll want to talk to about other people, where like, what did we have to say about the Marvels after, other than our meme of, you know, the Kree came here hopeful. It's like we weren't being like, hey, everybody on After 9, what do you all think about the Marvels? Like we all kind of had the same reaction. So, but yes, thank you very much for listening to this episode. When you hear from us next, I promise you it'll not be boring.
Say that again?